Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And we always do our very best to bring to you persons who are doing good things, and especially when it comes to supporting others. And in that way, they are transforming our community in the direction of light and by the power of God. And let's talk about writing today, because writing is such an important aspect. All of us, in one way or other, have been products of authors. We have consumed lots of information in forms of books, in forms of papers, in forms of blogs and articles, and those have changed our lives. And we are happy today on this edition of Spotlight to be joined by Rose Kainda Jackson, who is very much involved in the area of writing, of course, as an author, at the same time as a publisher. And we want to hear more about that, and especially how you can be able to understand, how can I become an author? How do I put what I have in writing into a book, into a format that people can read? And so we have with us Rose Kainda, who is the founder and CEO of Virtue Plus. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to have you.
So good to be here.
And thank you for coming to share your experience and share your knowledge with the country, with the world.
Yes.
Because that area of writing is a big part.
True.
Part. So welcome.
Asante sana.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's just right for us to begin with you telling us what Virtue Plus is all about.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here. It's really a delight. So first of all, as you've mentioned, my name's Rose Kainda Jackson. I think even before mentioning what Virtue Plus is, it will be, for me, very important to really say that I'm born again. I love the Lord because I find that to be my first identity. So having said that, Virtue Plus is all about transformation. Transformation in us. Many times we really don't know who we are. And I look at transformation from the aspect of a caterpillar. You know, the way it starts from a caterpillar to the larva stage, and then it gets to be a beautiful butterfly. So when we look at transformation at that stage, I'm looking at where we are coming from to where we are going. So Virtue Plus focuses on transformation, one, of the minds, of the spirit, of the body, in alignment with the Word of God. Because particularly when we look at Romans chapter 12, verse 2, the Bible tells us not to be conformed to the ways of the world, but to be transformed. And that transformation can only come through the written Word of God. So at Virtue Plus, we work on publishing. We publish books. We train, and training is in business and entrepreneurship. We also train authors, and we do curriculum development. We develop materials that are founded in the Word of God, which become manuals, which go into devotionals. And we have also developed curriculum for training, like in other business projects, not necessarily programs that have been run by us as Virtue Plus. The other thing that we do at Virtue Plus is mentoring. And again, we do mentor others, we mentor individuals towards their development agendas, and we also mentor business people. Yeah, so holistically, that is what Virtue Plus is all about.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. And the area of transformation is a key area.
Yes,
because we are meant to be people who are moving up, changing
Yes.
For the better
Yes.
every moment by moment.
Yes.
And now that we are talking about writing today, and you've talked about your identity as the first identity being you as a Christian.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us something about a book or books you've read at some point in your life that have been very impactful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if I remember my very first writing that, not writing, reading, that I really, really liked, and it kind of touched my spirit, were books written by a lady called Francine Rivers.
Oh, Francine Rivers?
Yes. I read those a couple of years ago, between 10, 15 years ago, I think also going to 20. And I loved how she actually picked stories in the Bible, picked like stories about the women in the Bible, and put them so well such that every time I read the stories written by Francine Rivers, I would cry out myself. Oh my goodness, I would feel like there is something piercing my heart, and I just wanted to hear more. And I can tell you for sure, her stories have transformed my life. But besides that, the greatest book that I've read and transformed my life is the Bible.
The Bible, okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's where I find life. That's where I have actually realized that I'm not just a product of my parents. No, I am a product of the work of God. You know, God tells us that He has created me in His image. Okay? And besides that, of course, now as we get to the area of salvation, Christ came and He calls me by His name. That's transformational. So for me, that is very critical.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned Francine Rivers, and one of the things that you say is that, you would even cry as
yes.
you read.
Yes.
And this is a book that you're reading, and it's evoking your emotions.
Emotions, yes.
And what makes a book that? What makes a book become one that is so alive?
Yes.
It's a fictional story.
Absolutely.
But it's so alive that your emotions are lost in it. At the same time, you cannot put it down.
Yes.
And what makes a book that?
I think there are two things. For me, is the message in the book. What exactly, as the author, are you telling the audience, the reader of the book? But besides that, the emotion that you bring it into that message yourself as the author. I mean, many times we have been told in the past that just write the message, hold your emotions, let not people hear you. No. People will be able to understand that message if you actually bring your emotion into it. And I'm saying that because I remember one of the books that Francine wrote was, I think, And the Shofar Blew, And there was a story of what I could relate with Samuel. And this young pastor, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, right now I may not remember all the details, but what Francine put in that story, you could see the church, you could see the pastor, you could see the crowd or the congregation, and you're thinking, there's something that needs to happen in the church so that we can actually walk in light of the word of God. So I saw the emotion, I saw the message, and because towards the end of the story, or really in every chapter, there was a call, reaching out to the spirit and the heart of the reader. So she was literally speaking to the reader.
Okay.
That's the essence of writing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, and of course, it's a skill that you gain to bring the emotion. And,
yes.
And of course, there are some writers that are supposed to be just dry without emotion, but this Francine really did something for you.
Beautiful.
Let's come to local, like our own African and Kenyan writers.
Yes.
One of the books maybe you have read, or several books you've read from our own local or African writers, and you can say this also was a really good book.
Okay. Local African...
Apart from Things Fall Apart.
I knew you'd get to that. And even talking about Things Fall Apart, there's something that the author of that book said. I know you said apart from it. But
no, everyone quotes Things Fall Apart.
He said, Mother is supreme. I've never forgotten that. Because I have a very special relationship with my mother, late mother. So
no, and I remember when the lizard jumps from the high Iroko tree and no one praises it, it praises itself. And Ekeneke, there was since man has learned to shoot without missing, Ekeneke the bird has learned to fly without perching.
Wow.
I mean...
I hear that.
Yes.
But now coming down here, like in the Kenyan context, it is a book I read in 1999. And I have revisited it, though I've not finished it. It's called Judy. A Second Chance, written by Reverend Dr. Judy Bogwa.
Okay.
Yeah, the lady running Home Care Spiritual Fellowship.
Yes. So, Reverend Judy Bugwa, great minister.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Reverend actually gave her story about how when she was young, she fell in love, with a gentleman, and she had been a believer, but she fell in love and got married. And so she shared how her journey of running away with this, her husband now. And though she had been brought up in a Christian family, at some point she was wondering, did I do the right thing or did I do the wrong thing to run away with this gentleman and start my own home? So at some point, Reverend, of course, came back to senses, and she gave her life to Christ again. But why I'm bringing this book into context is because, for me, when she talks of a second chance, many times believers or even unbelievers, we face so much in life and we feel like there is nothing more to have in life. I have messed up, or I don't know, there's no one to hear me, there's no one to see me. I don't see anyone that I can call or go and sit with and get some reprieve. But then in that book, she tells us there is a second chance if you can actually trust in God. And for me, that again was a book that transformed my life.
Okay.
Yes.
It seems every book has to have some interesting twist or some dramatic thing going on.
Yes.
For it to be worth the emotion.
Worth the emotion.
And
worth the emotion.
I know that you publish many books.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about writing and the process shortly. But you can tell us yourself as a writer.
Okay.
What are some of the books that you have written or some of the works that you've done?
Okay. Now, my writing journey started in 2009. 2009, I was working outside of the country in Southern Sudan. And first and foremost, I'm a single parent of 2 boys. Now they are young adults. Now then...
That's worth writing about.
I know. Then they were very tiny. In 2009, they were very tiny. So every time I would go to work, like I get to work, I call them in the evening and tell them I'm okay. And they're like, Mom, when are you coming? I'm thinking, I've just left home today. I have another 2 months to come, And every time I would call home, they would be like, Mom, when are you coming? And I kept wondering, Lord, why am I so far away? And these boys are on their own, they are missing me. They're not with their father, they are not with me. They used to be with my niece and a house girl. So I started actually just recording my thoughts, my emotions. And I just started journaling. I journaled like for 2 years. And by the time it was getting to 2009, mid-2009 to be precise, it was too much. And I had to resign. I resigned because the boys needed me. So when I resigned, I came and took some time, stayed with them, and I remember praying and telling God, you know what, God? I do not want a full-time job. I want a job where I'll be able to see these boys grow and get groomed in you, so that at least the 2 years I've been away from them, if there is anything I can do, just mentor them. Give them values that they can be able to hold on even as they grow up. So I would take them to school myself and pick them as much as possible, and then also monitor what they were watching on TV. And it really shocked me, because then I realized that, yes, before we had been praying, we had values that we were holding on, but they were not being adhered to. So that's when my journey started. Together with my journals, and now what I was experiencing, I started writing. And my thoughts were, yes, there are many parents, even if they are here with their children, and whether they are married or not, they are living, okay, then I used to live in Rongai. They're leaving so early in the morning to go to work, and they are arriving so late. One, because of the traffic, because then there was a lot of traffic jam on Langata Road and even Magad Road. So I'm like, how many parents really get to spend time with their children? What values are we imbuing in the children in our children, even as we try to groom them in the ways of the Lord? actually at that point, besides now writing, I started calling parents so that we could just sit down together and deliberate about the future generation that we want to equip and prepare them really for the world. So that's when I started writing, and that time I did my first book, which is Parenting in the 21st Century, a single mother's perspective. So let me just say something about this book.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I really, really think that I'm the one who started writing this book, but I believe it was inspired of the Holy Spirit. Because 2 years ago, the Bible Society of Kenya was writing, and just at the beginning of this month, they launched the African Women Devotional Bible. And so 2 years ago, I was approached by one of their staff to write an article. And I was wondering, me, an article to go into the Bible, you know? Well, I prayed and thought and asked, so Lord, what article do I write? And so I'm like, okay, my experiences as a single parent. So I picked chapter 2 of this book and just put it in form of an article. And this was about really the choices that we make as parents, not just single parents. And lo and behold, when this Bible was launched on the 6th of this month, my article is here.
Wow, okay.
So it's one of those transformational moments for me when I'm thinking. I wrote this book in 2012. From chapter 2, we have an article that has gone into the Bible. And I'm thinking, how many people are going to be touched by this article? You know?
Yeah.
So, yes, this is my first book, but thereafter I did another book on business. It's called, it's right here. This book is under revision right now because the boys are teenagers and young adults. There's so much that has happened. So I did as my second book, Developing Your Own Business Success Culture. This is also under revision because, again, I'm a business trainer and there are a couple of things that are developing. I am improving it further.
Yes.
I've also done a book. My third book is called, I don't have it here, but it's called, what is the title of that book?
It's, you can tell what is it about?
It's actually insights from the book of Proverbs in the Bible. Now, we've co-authored with a friend of mine called Miss Jackie Kaimenyi. It's a perfect book for every leader to have.
You know when you've written a lot of books, sometimes you can forget the titles. You know, so understood because you keep saying this one. You know, so understood. Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And so last year when COVID hit, these are the products of COVID. I did that book, The Power of Reflections, reaching out into the core, followed by this, The Full Armor of God. What you realize is actually the life of a believer is a battle. So without being fully equipped, you may not win.
Yeah. I know, Lina, Rose, those have already, how many books have you done this far?
I've done 5 books.
5 books. That's amazing. You know? And you're still writing, right?
I'm still writing, I'm still writing. I'm revising these 2, and I'm writing 2 other titles now.
And of course, not including the fact that you have an article in the African Women's Devotional Bible.
Yes.
And I think, how do you feel about that? That something you wrote out of your own experience as a single mother, and that finds, from that writing, now it finds a place in the divine, in the Bible, of course, as an article, but it finds its place there in your favorite book, so to say.
Oh, yes.
How do you feel about that?
Let me just say that, first of all, I was completely overwhelmed to get to learn that my article is there. But one thing that becomes very clear is that God wants me, or wants his people to be very precise, to be transformers. We actually represent him here on earth. So now when he gave me that piece of writing, and it ultimately entered into the Bible, it means that there are people outside there in the whole world, really, that he wants to hear that message. So that then, because what I wrote there is something that I'd gone through, it's something that had transformed me, and people, as they get to interact with it, they get transformed. Their minds, kind of gets a shift. And for me, that is humbling, and it's a blessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still writing, and it's a big thing. And now there are people already now, just from your story and from your experience, you're very passionate. They would want to know, especially now from your publisher point of view, what is the journey? What's the path that one takes so that they can become published authors?
Okay. It's not a mystery, because many people think, oh, an author, how do I start? What do I have to have? I think for me, it starts with having a very clear identity of who you are, having a very clear identity of understanding your purpose on earth. As I mentioned again, we are not on earth by accident. When God created us, He created us in His own image so that we may represent His purposes here. Now, writing, first and foremost, like for me, I'm writing so that I can bring the mind of God into the heart, into the spirit of the reader. So what it means for somebody to be an author is then, what message do you have? Okay? Yes, you've got a message. You've got a message for the youth. You've got a message for the leaders. You've got a message for the children. You have a message? Good. Package it. And when I say package it, it means you start writing, and you may not be able to align it because then some of that work is left to the publishers. Just write it. But there are others who actually have a message and they are not even able to write. So, like I've done what we also call ghostwriting. I just sit down with an author and they give me their story and I write it for them. So the first thing really is to have that message.
Let's stay with that ghostwriting a little bit. Is what I'm talking about somebody who doesn't know or doesn't have the time to write?
Yes.
And then they tell you what it is they want to write.
Yes.
And so you, on their behalf,
Yes.
Write it.
Yes.
And because some people wonder, they say, I don't have the time, to write. I don't have even the skill maybe to write, but I feel I have a message.
Yes.
So that person can write as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I've done 2 books like that, and I'm actually currently doing one like that. One of the books I did, that's really combined an aspect of ghostwriting, and the author did an intro. Then the rest, they told me their story.
They spoke.
They just spoke and told me their story. Again, there is a book of Reverend Judy Bogwa. Her second book is The Relentless Faith. And I had to sit with her many, many hours so that she can tell me a story. And then I put it down. Secondly, I think still with Reverend, I've written now 2 of her books. I'm really privileged to have done that. Because what has happened is that she has been in this ministry for 40 years, and I am so privileged to have been part of her journey. This is the book that we are doing. It's right on print. It's going to be launched on the 28th of this month. This has been part of that journey as well. Just meeting with her and her sharing the journey and just writing, because for sure, she's not time.
So in other words, you have no excuse as to having a message and not having it out there. There's a way of doing it.
Whatsoever.
That's very important. Because some people get stuck and they say, I don't have the time.
Yes.
But there is the technique of doing it. There's a way of making sure that what you want to, your message goes out there.
Yes.
That's very helpful. So we are now at identity, we are at the point of message.
Yes.
You have that.
Yes.
So how do you progress?
Okay. From there now, when you know that you have a message, I just mentioned that if you're now able to write, please write it down. Okay? If you're not able to write, like we've said, get somebody whom you can be able to tell your story. From there now, if you have written, now look for a publisher. Now, when you look for a publisher, for us at Virtue Plus, what we do is that we get to sit down with you and get to hear your story, whether it's written or not, so that we can be able, first of all, to determine whether it's a story that we can be able to do. What do I mean by that? We write only stories that are founded in the Word of God. Because as I mentioned, it's about transformation. We want people to really get to know their creator, get to find purpose in the stories that we put down. So when we get to sit with the authors and share their stories, then they now give us their manuscripts, which we review. After reviewing, we kind of now enter into an agreement. And from there, let me just also mention that I have a background in Bible training. So I do a lot of contextual review and analysis of what has been written, so that besides the editorial work that we do, I'm also looking at the context in which this story is being written, especially from a biblical point of view. So we write that story like 3 times. By 3 times, I mean it goes through an editorial process 3 times. There is the first time, the first editor goes through it. It goes back to the second editor, the third editor, and at the second and third stage, we are sharing it with the author so that they can know that this is actually my story. So that after that, then we do a dummy, then that confirms that, oh, this is actually what it's gonna look like. That is, for the first time authors, they feel very, what? This is my book. Oh my goodness. It has my name in it. You know, it's very exciting. So when they see that, then they can actually affirm, wow, this is it.
Okay.
And then from there, once we have done all the editorial, we have done the designs inside, it's as easy. We go to press and reprint. Thereafter, we have a couple of others whom we have had to do a launch for. If not, we just deliver the books to the author. And now they can market their books, they can sell their books, but we also help them in marketing through our platforms. We have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page, and now we have our website.
All right, Rose, good process there. But there's something you've left out.
Yes.
The funding.
The funding,
cost.
yes.
And we'll come
Yes,
back to
yes,
that because
yes.
that's an important part. Because some
Absolutely.
people may begin their journey
Yes.
and feel like, oh, the costs are too prohibitive,
Yes.
or they don't even try because
Yes.
they feel that it would be too expensive.
Yeah.
And with your experience, I'm sure that we'll get to know about that.
Absolutely.
Our viewer, we are talking to Rose Kainda Jackson, who is the CEO of Virtue Plus. And she's telling us about writing, and you want to stay here because when we come back, we'll talk more about how you can fund, and of course, a few other things that are important about writing. And you never know, this could be your step towards writing your first publication. So stay here. This is Spotlight. Welcome back, viewer. We are talking to Rose Kainda Jackson here on Spotlight, and it's all about writing. And again, be here because the inspiration could just begin your writing journey here. And so thanks so much for the insights this far, Rose.
Welcome.
It's just amazing. I am still remembering just how your article got into a commentary here in the Bible.
Amen.
I mean, there's no higher place that your article, your writing can be than inside here.
Yes.
It's what an honor, right? And as we talk about that, before we went for the break, we were talking about the journey and the path.
Yes.
And one of the things that was important was the funding, because
Yes.
people may have the message.
Yes.
People may want to subject their manuscripts through the editorial processes and the marketing and all that. But is the funding part sometimes prohibitive? Can you just speak to that?
I think my answer to that would be yes and no. Let me start with no first. No, because it is actually not very expensive to have a book in print.
Okay.
Just having a complete process, it's not very expensive. Particularly if it's not a bulk book, if it's not a full color book, and if it is a book that the author has done the writing themselves. You see, by the time the author is giving us a manuscript, the message is already there. So what we are coming to do is to contextualize it, to ensure that, first of all, that message is aligned, it's cohesive, you know, it's really flowing. And if need be, reorganize it here and there, of course, in consultation with the author. So that doesn't take a lot. Where the junk of the money, I guess, and this is where people feel that, whoops, I may not be able to get there, is when it comes to printing. So let me just put it like, by the time we are getting to printing, with about 100,000 shillings, you can have your first book ready. And these days, we are so pleased and blessed to have what we call print on demand. As an author, you don't have to print 500 copies of your book. You don't have to print 200 copies. You print copies first and foremost, like even 50, even 20. Even personally, I've had many times to print 20 copies instead of 500 copies or 1,000 copies. So what that means is that if I have 50,000 shillings, I can print books. If I have 20,000 shillings, if I'm, for example, going to a speaking engagement somewhere, I can carry 20 books with me. I can carry 50 books with me. I don't have to carry 500 books with me. And even if you were to keep, to have books in bookshops will not take more than 50 books, for example. And many times they'll ask for 20 just to test the waters. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not expensive. However, if you are, for example, a renowned author or personality and you know, people are looking for your books, you may need like 500 copies, you may need 1,000 copies. That is now where you may need quite some money. And the highest number of books we have done is, or printed, is 1,000 copies.
On the first print?
On the first print, yes, 1,000 copies. This, dependent on whether it's black and white or colored, ranges between, and again also depending on the number of pages, yeah? It ranges between 300,000, some have gone up to about 800,000. So it's something doable. So
when you have the message and you have the intention to put it in writing,
yes.
You don't stall yourself.
No, don't.
Just take the step and talk to a publisher like you,
absolutely.
and then you get the right advice.
Yes,
And from there, they can see how things can work.
Yes,
which makes it really accessible. And I like what you say, that people should not stop at the funding part. Let them move on to the publisher like you, and then let them get advice from there.
Probably what I should say is that we operate very differently from the traditional or, you know, renowned publishers, because I think for me, this is ministry. I'm writing so that I can pass the message out there. It's not really about a lot of money, because it's not business. I believe in service. I believe in ministry, and when I serve, when I minister, then somehow through those avenues, money will come. But first of all, serve. You serve by writing, you serve by ministering to an author, and in the process, money will come. Because the challenge is, if you want to write because you want to sell and make money, I know many others do that. But I like looking at it from a perspective, why I ask myself, why are you writing?
You know, when you mention about money, it's a big thing. Because,
it is.
Because some people would want to make a career out of writing, right?
That's
they will actually want to, yes, pass the message, but also make money.
Yes.
Now, how does that model work?
I think, let me say this, my brother. Everything we do, whether writing, whether teaching, any career, we need to go into it like we are serving. We are ministering to God's people. So as we do that, money or funds will actually follow. But if you don't do that first, if you chase for money, money will run away from you. And I don't want to deviate, but I also want to quote a gentleman called Chuck Blakeman. Chuck Blakeman has written a book called Making Money is Killing Your Business, or even killing your career, if you want to put it that way. Because then if you focus on money, you lose a lot. But if you focus on, why am I doing this? And then you do it so well because you know why, and because you know what you want to achieve, then now you will draw many. You actually open up avenues for the money to come.
Okay.
Because without asking the why, because without understanding why you are doing it, then you may even end up using shortcuts which do not help you achieve your objective.
Now, there are options like self-publishing.
Yes.
There are also ebooks.
Yes.
Where you just need one copy.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And then upload it
Yes.
in the internet, in particular site and everything.
Yes.
Can you comment about those kinds of models also of publishing?
Yes. Let me start with self-publishing. Of course, I started, first of all, myself as a self-published author. My very first book that we have talked about earlier, Parenting in the 21st Century. What I did is that I didn't have any clue about writing, but I knew I had a message that I wanted to write. And so what I did is just put together my writing, and then what I did was look for a printer. And when I looked for a printer, they helped me print the book, of course, with so many mistakes, not mistakes in the writing, but mistakes in terms of even the packaging. The spine was not put so well, and I'm thinking, okay, I ended up like losing almost 50 copies of the book because they were done so poorly. So there are a number of mistakes that self-published authors get to go through, but with time now we have had to learn. It's okay if one can start as a self-published author, but let's now be very open to learn that there are forums, there are networks where you can actually get to be taught. And what I have done myself through Virtue Plus is that I actually take people through the process of publishing. I can do your manuscript and tell you if you want to. If you don't want us to go ahead and print your book, that's fine. But this is it. This is a perfect product that you can go ahead and look for a print and print for you. But the first and foremost thing is get some external or some what I call outside eyes to see your content, to see your message.
You mentioned that there are networks that
Yes.
can be able to assist
Yes.
somebody like who wants to publish. Maybe you can mention maybe a network or two.
Yes. Thank you for really bringing out that, because after launching my second book actually, two friends and I met in 2018, and we felt that, wow, there are many networks out there for publishing, or rather for authors, but we really wanted a network for faith-based writing. And we started what we call the Kenya Faith Writers Network. And by the grace of God, right now, I'm actually the current chair. And what we do with the network is we bring together authors who are focused in writing literature based on the Word of God. And we help them, we train them, we help to do what we call joint launches, so that people also don't feel that I cannot be able to launch my book because it's too expensive. So we do joint launches. And we also have what we call an editorial team that supports every writer, even as they go through the process of their writing. So this space really has been very, very helpful, because we started as 3 in 2018, but today we are about 50. We are actually 48 members, and we have had 3 annual launches. So it's a very good platform to be in.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, so there's help.
There is help out there.
There's help.
Every time you go, you will actually get help. What we need is somebody to be very intentional in what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it's interesting when you talk about self-publishing, and there's also now, as I was mentioning, like the ebooks.
Yes.
How does that work?
Okay. Now, when we do a book and it's finalized, it's ready for print if you want to go the print way. Now, at that point, we pick your manuscript and we actually put it in an ebook format. Now, I know many people just put their ebooks as a PDF. We don't do it in PDF because nowadays, because of technology, PDF can actually be, sorry to say it, but it's not safe. So there are other softwares that are being used so that your ebook can be actually secured. So what we do is that we we have your work either in PDF or in word processing format that is now set apart in what we call DRM. It's put in a DRM format, securing your content so that whether it goes to Amazon, whether it goes to any other online platform, like here in Kenya, we also have a platform called Books for My Soul, whom we actually partner with a lot. And once that is done, you actually have your book ready to be sold anywhere in the world. And it's a very simple process. It's very cost effective, because after going through the first stages of publishing a book and ensuring that it's ready, then it's just a very small expense of now turning it into a DRM format, which you can be able to publish and sell either on Amazon or any other ebook platform.
All right.
Yeah.
And when you are a writer, one of the things that comes across a lot is the writer's block.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
That you really want to write, and you feel that writing is my thing, but there are seasons where you cannot just put your mind to imagine the way it's supposed to in a way supposed to produce the writing that you want.
Yes.
Let's just share with us your experience of the writer's block.
Okay.
Now, you have written a lot. Definitely
Yes.
in the COVID, you didn't have that. You know, it seems that you wrote quite a bit. But what's your experience of the writer's block?
First of all, it is real. It is, sometimes you may think, oh, really? It is real. My experience is, first of all, in each of the books that I've done, I have experienced the writer's block. And what happens is that many times I wake up in the morning, I write best in the morning. And as much as I'm saying I write best in the morning, I've realized that I can actually write any time of the day, but morning is best. So there are many times I've found myself waking up to write, and I open up my laptop and I'm ready to write. And I just stare at the screen. Probably by the time I was waking and maybe I'm through with my devotions, I'm thinking, I'm ready, I've psyched myself, I'm ready to write. And I can't put forth, even if the message is here, I just can't put it forth. And that can be discouraging. But what I have realized is that it's okay, because then the mind needs to rest and the mind needs to be in the right perspective for you to be able to write. So what I've done myself in the past is that I have allowed myself to pray and ask the Lord to just give me clarity of mind. I have also taken breaks. When I realize that I'm not able to write and my mind is completely blocked to writing, I don't force myself. I just put my machine on and just do something else. What I have also done is, okay, this may not be able to happen to everybody else, but I have also found it very helpful to just praise and worship. Now, I know this may not be part of this, but I love praise and worship. I am a singer somewhere. So I actually sing. And by the time I'm finishing with singing, you'll be shocked that if I went down to sit and write, there'll be such a flow of the message that was within me. So just to say that, yes, the writer's block is true, it is real. When it's there, don't force yourself, because then you may write things that are not congruent really to the message that you want to write. And that means that you'll take more time to either revise or to edit. So when you feel like you are not able to write, stop. Take a break. Do something else different.
Yeah.
Give yourself, even if it's a day, 2 days, or even a week, and then also probably pray about it. Then by the time you come, you are fresh to write it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And there are people who feel that maybe writing a book, 100 pages, 200 pages is a big thing. And there are other spaces that you can begin to write short articles,
Yes.
especially maybe social media, blogs. I mean, can you speak to that as well?
Yes, yes. Apparently, even before I wrote my first book and I'd started a blog, it's called Rose Kainda, Let the Word Prevail. And I'll just share my thoughts about the Word of God, about issues to do with life. I've written quite a number of articles on transformation. And so there is the blog. You can use Facebook. Facebook is a good tool to write. In fact, I know of an author whose first book was a collection of all the Facebook posts that he had done. And not one, not two, I know a couple of them. And I'll also mention that there are also a series of other posts that are done in my blog that are included in one of my books because they formed quite a good series on transformation. So you don't have, if for example, you feel that you cannot start writing a book because you're thinking, I'll need 80,000 words, I'll need 100,000 words, start small. Write a post on your FB wall, or start a blog, and then with time, before you know it, you'll be shocked how much you have done. Yes.
So you can start in that small.
You can actually start that small.
And then let's talk about like when you use that approach of social media, a social media platform.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you must, because if you're writing now, if you're using that as your writing space,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you must do so that you can come out also in that space as a writer?
I think, again, for me, really, you must be very intentional in terms of writing. You're not just writing for the sake of writing. There is one question that has transformed my life. Why am I doing this? So you always have to ask yourself, why am I going to write? And again, whom am I writing it to? Because it's not literally everyone on the internet who will read that write-up. So you need to first find out, why am I writing? What am I writing? So that then you can prepare. Don't just go start writing, typing. No, prepare. You can write it in your laptop or in your device and then upload it, as opposed to writing directly. Because when you write directly, it may not even be edited in the first place, and it may not be palatable in terms, in the eyes and even in the ears of the person that is reading. So the preparation here means that take time, write it before you post it, maybe even read it so that you can tell, is it making sense? Is the person who is going to interact with this message really going to be impacted by it? So when you get time to prepare, then you can decide, okay, I'll post it on my Facebook page. And I've also realized that you need to be able to kind of alert your people, the people that you network with. You know what? There is this thing I've written. You check it out. That way, when your friend sees that message, they can share it with somebody else. And before you know it, they're like, I like that. And they'll keep asking, have you written? So that will also keep you motivated to realize that you are impacting somebody and they are looking forward to your writing.
All right.
Yeah.
I get the idea of intentionality to the extent that you actually alert people that I'm doing this.
Yes.
Now, you've talked about readers.
Yes.
And that brings us to the area of the reading culture here in Kenya.
Yes.
And it's not an area that has been analyzed to have a lot of good news.
Yes.
We are said to have a very poor reading culture. Because now there are many books, but maybe not as many readers, right?
Yes.
Can you comment about that?
Yes, yes. I 100% agree with you that, our reading culture has been assessed like not the best. It's not good at all. And personally, why I think that is the case is, like, when I was growing up, we were more or less forced to read in school. And we were not motivated or even told, you can read for your own benefit. We were made to read to pass exams. And where I started reading is the Bible. For me, the reading started in the Bible. And I started reading, when I started reading, I realized, oh my goodness, there's so many benefits for me as I read the Bible. And then thereafter, I would read newspapers just for information purposes. I am not an avid reader of newspapers, but I try. But then, when I realized that, there are these other books also that I read and I can really become very informed. When I was in school, and even now I am in school, I realized that every time I read, there are nuggets that I get to capture, and they inform the way I do things. They inform the way I think. I'm realizing, wow, I cannot afford to remain, with the knowledge that I got from the books that I read 20 years ago, that I read 10 years ago, that I read 5 years ago. I have to keep reading. I have to keep reading. And not most probably, reading in the areas of interest especially. And of course now, like in the current news, getting to understand what is happening. Why I'm saying that, it's because now, generally, people realize if they are not in school, they are like, now what do I read for? Somebody wrote and said that if you don't read, you stink. You literally remain there because that is old information. There is nothing to challenge it. You just package there in the old you. But when you read, it's like you are refreshing yourself. There is a new thought that is coming, and it's like stirring up what has been there and opening you up. So what we have done, like as a Virtue Plus, is we are opening up what we call the author's delight. And as much as we are calling the authors to write, we are saying, let's also allow our audiences to read what we have written. And so besides the author's delight, we are also doing what I would want to call, what is it called? We provide a platform.
It's the writer's block.
I like that. We provide a platform where people can actually be able to engage with books and get to read. We allow people to interact with a certain book. For example, we have a story on this chapter. Let's read and get to hear what it is about. And that way you can tell the audience, there is this stuff that has been written about. Probably you have a challenge in your marriage. Somebody has written about marriage. You can get to hear that. Then somebody has an issue with children. Somebody has written about children. You can get to hear that. So it's good that we read. Because reading opens up our minds. And really, I challenge Kenyans to read. And I know, again, one of the challenges that we have been having as Kenyans is because there have been a lot of books from the Western countries, which have been treated as, these are the books to read.
These are the real books.
These are the real books. Yeah. But I'm wondering, we're in Kenya, we're in Africa. This is where real life is happening.
This is our
story.
Yeah.
Please, let's read our stories, okay? Let's read the story of that business person and get to hear, how did he make it? Let's read the story of that parent and get to understand, how did he make it? Like Hope FM, let's get to read about how was Hope FM started? Why did we start Hope FM? So let's read.
All right.
Yes.
You're very strong there that if you do not read, then you stink.
Yeah.
Because you are stagnant in terms of your knowledge, and you're not stirring it up, you're not building it up. And in the process, you also talked about parents and children.
Yes.
And that's a very important area because sometimes we think that for you to start writing, you have to mature fast. You have to really be this grown-up person, so to speak. But how can parents help their children begin to write or begin to discover their gift of expression and putting it in words?
That's an awesome question. And as a parent, I think one of the things that we have not done, and this is what we can really be able to pick up right now and run with, is encourage our children to first and foremost find out what their talents are, what their gifts are. And I do not want to over-spiritualize this, but I completely believe that when God created us, He created us with very distinct gifts and talents. Now, parents have disconnected with their children, especially because of the many priorities that we have to manage. So the first thing to do is, for a parent, connect with your children. Observe them. Get to know what it is that makes them tickle. Get to know what it is that makes them, come alive. And when you get to know that, you are able to encourage them. Now, there are children who, for example, in school have been involved in writing clubs. They really like reading the newspapers. They like reading books. And you realize this child can write. As a parent, encourage them. Get to realize that this gift this is where they thrive. Now, talk to them, get to understand what is your interest, what is your desire, how can I help you? Because many parents, I'll tell you for sure, even me when I was growing up, I didn't get any support from my parents, and particularly not even in writing, but in anything. But I don't blame them because they didn't know. And I thank God for my parents, first and foremost, because they educated me. But now for us who, in this era, we know that we can be able to encourage our our children. We know that we can sit down and have a conversation with them. Please sit down with your children. Get to understand, what can I do to help you become the best that you can ever be?
Okay.
What can I be able to help you to bring out that purpose that you are created by God to accomplish here on earth?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's very important for all parents. And as we end this conversation, I'm sure a lot of people are going to start some particular projects.
Yes.
How does one connect with Author's Delight?
Okay. Connecting with Author's Delight is easy. You actually get to reach out to us, and you can reach out to us from our website, from our Instagram, from our Facebook, or our telephone contacts, email address. Yeah, and basically what we do is that we meet every Saturday of the month. We have one scheduled this coming Saturday, not this coming Saturday, the first Saturday of September. Yes.
So one looks up for Virtue Plus?
Virtue Plus.
Okay.
Virtue Plus, that is it, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Ross, very inspiring. And thank you for sharing your experience here as a writer and as a publisher. Very inspiring. People and what they should do in terms of their writing journey.
Yes.
And it's just right for us, our viewer, to just end this program by reading a part of what was a section in the book that Rose wrote, and made it to be a commentary in the African Women Devotional Bible. This is just a part of it. Just listen. Says, there is a work in you. Not only did God know you, but he also set you apart as an instrument of good works. As seen at the beginning of this article, parenting is a godly responsibility, a purpose and a job that God himself has prescribed for you. As a single parent of that blessing of life that the Lord has placed in your hands, remembering that children are a gift from God. Whose responsibility is it to bring them up in God's ways so that they can also identify with Christ and not be lost in the world? Who will train them in the way of the Lord? Now, in parenting, the assignment entails to pluck up and to break down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build and to plant. From a section of a book to a commentary in the African Women Devotional Bible. That's what writing can do. So start up your gift, get up, do something, because God is waiting for you to, yes, write. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.